Borderlands 4 is the definitive Borderlands experience, with more guns, more skills, more enemies, and more quests than ever before. It's simply more of what you already love if you are already a fan of the series. The brand new seamless open world is huge and gorgeous, and the humour is back on top form. All of the gameplay and combat additions are ridiculously fun and feel like an incredible step in the right direction. If only it wasn't plagued with so many bugs, some of which have been almost game-breaking. Then I could give this the perfect rating that I want to give it. Basically, my only issue with the game is the bugs. Everything else is absolutely fantastic. So hopefully after a few months, or maybe even only a few short weeks, when all of the bugs are sorted, I can easily say this will be the best game in the whole franchise. However, in its current state, as much as I want to, it is very difficult to say that at the moment. Originally, the game wasn't going to release until September 23rd, and in its current state, I feel like it should have stayed this way. It really could have done with a few extra weeks to cook and really iron out some of these issues. Because apart from that, as I say, it really is incredibly, ridiculously amazing. And I will talk about all of the really, really awesome stuff shortly. But I just want to start by talking about some of the worst offenders when it comes to the bugs and the glitches. More than once I've had both enemies and my own character get stuck in objects and walls, which sometimes stops me from progressing quests, and sometimes literally completely stops me in my tracks and makes me have to restart the game. And because of the new double jump and glide system, you are frequently able to access areas that you shouldn't be able to access, which in and of itself is fine because there's plenty of invisible walls around to stop you going out of bounds, but it does make it easier to accidentally glide to somewhere you shouldn't be, and on occasion get stuck there, forcing a reload or forcing you to fast travel and have to walk all the way back again. Also, considering how incredibly high budget this game is and how massive the studio are, I cannot believe I've been finding typos. This literally spelling mistakes. How was this not checked? Most of them I didn't take note of as they cropped up because they were in minor side quests that I didn't feel the need to record. But one example here is this Rafa skill, which clearly says mass instead of max. Like, come on. And I've also been unable to retrieve my lost loot from the lost loot machine on multiple occasions because it thinks I've got the defaulted unupgraded 16 inventory slots. So for instance, to give you an example, I might be on like 40 out of 58 slots because that's how big my inventory is currently. So I'll go to retrieve my 10 lost loot items from the machine, and it was like, no, you've got 40 out of 16 items already, you're not allowed them. Obviously that's not the case. Like, what? And frequently my guns icons have just been completely disappearing. So I'm left with blank coloured boxes in my inventory, and I have to hover over everything individually to try and figure out what they are. And finally, not so much of a bug, just something I really don't like about the design, is that there is no way to retain your filters when you're looking through your guns and your other equipment. So for instance, I really like to arrange it by weapon type and then by DPS. So if I'm looking for an upgrade for my shotgun or my assault rifle or whatever, I can see the most powerful ones I have in my inventory. But every time you look at one and then you swap it and then you have to go back into this menu again, it resets all your filters. So you have to apply these filters every time you re-enter the menu, which is frequent. And that also gets incredibly tedious. Now, my friends, these are the worst offending bugs. I'm sure I may have encountered a few more minor ones throughout my time with the game here and there, but you get the picture. Most of these things in isolation aren't too bad. Bugs happen, especially in a game with the scope and the size and ambition of something like Borderlands 4. But when they're this frequent, it's just immersion breaking, and it's upsetting more than anything. I do have one more minor complaint before we get into the good things. So I know they wanted to make legendaries more meaningful. This is something they have actively done, which is great because legendaries were far too rampant in BL3. It was just silly. They didn't have meaning anymore. But at 65 hours into the game, I have found 3 legendaries. And 2 of them have been class mods for a class I wasn't even using. So I literally have 1 legendary in 65 hours. Let me put that a different way to really hit home how infrequent legendaries are. As a vault hunter, the primary thing in life is hunting for vaults. These gigantic, otherworldly treasure chests containing the most legendary loot possibly imaginable. I collected multiple key fragments. I finally found a vault. I cleared it out. I beat the final boss. I grabbed my reward, and it was just a bunch of rares and like 1 epic. Not a single legendary. Not from the boss, not from the chests, not from the reward of literally beating a vault. Not 1 legendary. That hurt. That was rough. Now, apart from the bugs, I honestly don't believe I have one more single notable complaint about the game. The gameplay and everything else is just incredible. So let's now start to talk about all of the really fun, awesome things in the game, because there is a lot of them. And as I say, when the bugs are fixed, this game is going to be god tier. Okay, my friends, now you know every single gripe I have with the game. All the bad stuff's out the way. So, what is actually good about the game? Oh, so many things. So let's start by talking about the brand new seamless open world take on Borderlands. And it is so cool. Yes, you will sometimes get a brief amount of stutter as you enter a new zone, but the world is absolutely massive and it is so packed full of stuff. They cannot have every single thing loaded in all at once. It just wouldn't work. So there's going to be a small amount of background loading every so often as you are moving into basically a new zone. But it's infrequent and it's smooth. It's really well done. And not only that, but you can go pretty much anywhere in the entire game from the second you land on Khraze. You can also tackle basically every single objective on the whole planet in any order you want. Everything pieces together so well, and you can pick and choose whatever it is you fancy doing at that moment in time. The main story pieces are interchangeable, all the side quests are interchangeable. It's fantastically put together. It's such a beautiful puzzle. The only people I can see having a problem with this are people who only like linear experiences and would rather be told what they should be doing in the intended order at all times. And that's not a nitpick at anyone. That's fine to be like that. Just wanted to let you know that the game doesn't try to force you to do things in a particular order. So if you really do only like to play like that, then this might be a little bit overwhelming, because sometimes the freedom of choice in this is so much that it can be a bit daunting. But honestly, if you're an open world gamer, to even the most minor extent, I honestly think you will prefer it. And as far as this style of storytelling goes, it is done incredibly well. Next up, art-wise, just look at it. Just look how glorious Borderlands 4 looks. Of course, Borderlands never fails to deliver artistically on quality when we're talking about the graphics and its own very unique, very cool art style. And BL4 takes this to the next level. It's absolutely gorgeous. There are so many different environments as well that, combined with the open worldness of the game, if you ever get bored with your surrounding landscape, well, just hop on your Digirunner and go quest somewhere else for a while. It's very varied and it's all equally beautiful. Next up, I want to talk to you about the characters and the story. Spoiler free, of course, just an overview to let you know how good it is or isn't. And don't worry, of course we're going to talk about the combat and all of the juicy surrounding mechanics, the guns and the other gameplay mechanics very soon. That's the main course, we're nearly there. But first, as I say, the NPCs that you encounter. For the most part, it's about what you'd expect from Borderlands, and I mean that in the best kind of way. The side characters are particularly great. Some of these psychos that you help out in optional quests will stick with me for a long time. Brilliant writing, brilliant voice acting, and absolutely hilarious. In fact, I think I probably enjoyed a lot of the side content more than the main quests. And that's not because the main quests are bad, quite the contrary, but because the side quests are so much fun. The only thing I will say is that the Timekeeper, the main antagonist, was a little bit boring for me, especially when compared to his lieutenants, and especially when compared to the absolute #1 villain of all time, Handsome Jack. And you know what, my friends, I think that's probably the problem with everything that's come after Borderlands 2, is that they absolutely peaked with Handsome Jack. We have such high expectations now because Handsome Jack was an absolute god tier villain. You loved to hate him. Everything about him was just perfect. Perhaps the best villain ever. Not just in the Borderlands franchise, but like literally ever. So it's now very hard for any Borderlands character, good or bad, to hold a candle to him. So that being said, I don't think the characters in this are bad. None of them. Like I say, Timekeeper may be a little bit boring, but it's just, he's so good in such a bad way, you know what I mean, that it's very hard to compare anything to him. That being said, I do think the Ripper Queen is fucking awesome, and there are a lot of really cool characters in Borderlands 4. Definitely a step in the right direction. Okay, my friends, finally enough waffling about other things. Let's talk about shooting things. This is what 99% of us will be doing 99% of the time in a Borderlands title, is shooting things in the face and the arms and the legs and exploding them and blowing them up and burning them and freezing them. This is the core of a Borderlands game, and it is done oh so well. It's crazy fun. It's exactly what you would expect, especially because BL4 takes the variety up to another level. As I've said before, as I'm sure many of you know, there are more skills in this game than in Borderlands 2 and 3 combined. That's how big this game is. The build variety in Borderlands 4 is on another level, and people are going to be finding and sharing their favorite builds for months to come. It'll probably be years before we've fully exhausted the sheer volume of weird and wacky and wonderful builds that you could achieve in this game. And also the hundreds of skills on offer in each of the 12 different skill trees. It's just mind-boggling to even hazard a guess as to what kinds of disgusting combos people are going to be coming up with. And because of that, they've been able to ramp up the difficulty of the enemies to the next level as well. There are more enemies than ever, more enemy variety than ever. But because we are so powerful with loads of new skills, with our brand new exclusive rep kit healing item, it means they've been able to take everything combat and shooting and gameplay related up to 11. Just to give you one more specific example, by level 27 is around when you can reach the end of your first skill tree. And here you will unlock something called a capstone. Capstones will completely change up your action skill to something so ridiculously powerful and usually very specific and niche for your certain build. And this is what will really unlock your and your build's full potential. This is where the game starts to show you how wild it can get. So as I say, to give you one specific example, with my critical hit Rafa build, this is where I swapped my shoulder-mounted machine guns for a freeze ray and a corruption beam. And these things melt. At this point, they were doing far more DPS than me, and because they auto-fire and auto-lock on, and because they are now beams instead of bullets, they hit far more frequently than me as well. So I could pretty much just sit there and do nothing in fights, and they would just solo everything for me. And because of the build I was running, with every single crit that I, or any indirect damage that I dealt, did to an enemy, it would extend the duration of how long my shoulder-mounted death rays would be active. And then with every kill they or I would get, it would extend how long they were active even further. And then I could even overcharge them, making them crit more often and do additional bonus damage every time they crit. Honestly, it's just baffling to think how far you can take builds in this game. Then there's obviously so many other supporting systems in combat as well to make it even more interactive and engaging than ever before. Being able to literally hop on your Digi-Runner whenever you like, even in mid-combat, to give you an extra boost across the battlefield so that you can reposition. Then you can use your echolocation to highlight all nearby grapple points and climbable walls. And then you'll use your double jumping and your gliding to swing across to another platform or vantage point. And once you get the hang of using all of these additional abilities alongside the tried and true shooting stuff in the face with a billion guns, it's then that you really start to understand how much and how well they've improved combat in Borderlands 4. And finally, on top of this, you've then got post-game content, you've got Ultimate Vault Hunter 5 and beyond, the Invincible bosses, and plenty more content on the way already planned for the Year 1 roadmap, which is just going to even further enhance this already incredibly satisfying gameplay loop. And don't forget that we've now got even more gear slots than ever before as well, with 4 weapon slots, a dedicated grenade / heavy ordnance / throwing knife slot, depending on what you prefer. You've also got your class mod, your shield, your rep kit, and your enhancements. So that is 9 pieces of gear you've got. And that is without even talking about the new licensed part system, meaning a gun can adopt the traits and bonuses of multiple manufacturers. And then you have something called firmware, which are set bonuses that make you even more crazy powerful still. So you've got like a dozen ways to really build your character there, just at surface level. And all of this makes for a very satisfying and addictive and rewarding experience. Then you've also got, of course, Moxie's big encore system, to allow you to replay bosses and vaults for bigger and better rewards. And I know a lot of us are going to be chasing the biggest and best rewards and hoping for a full set of maxed out legendaries for many moons to come. In conclusion, my friends, once they fix the bugs, and hopefully in the late game I get a few more legendaries, then I will easily be able to say without a shadow of a doubt that Borderlands 4 is the best game in the franchise and well worth your time. And with that, all that's left for me to say is thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.